A few weeks ago, almost nobody was talking about it. The headlines were all about spectacular goals, rising stars, dramatic upsets, and unforgettable moments. Every conversation seemed to revolve around who would lift the World Cup trophy. But while millions of fans were watching the football, another story was quietly unfolding behind the scenes. Players were becoming increasingly frustrated. Coaches were beginning to raise concerns. Match officials found themselves under growing pressure. Even FIFA, an organization that rarely admits mistakes during a tournament, suddenly found itself answering uncomfortable questions. The strange part is that none of these problems can be solved with a better tactical system or a world-class striker. They're bigger than any one team, and if they're ignored, they could completely change the future of the World Cup. Because the biggest challenge facing FIFA today isn't happening on the pitch, it's happening everywhere around it. When people think about the World Cup, they imagine packed stadiums, national pride, unforgettable goals, and moments that become part of football history forever. They don't usually think about the enormous machine working behind the tournament. Every World Cup is more than just football. It's one of the largest sporting events on the planet. Billions of people watch. Thousands of journalists cover every detail. Hundreds of sponsors invest enormous amounts of money. Every decision affects broadcasters, advertisers, national associations, clubs, players, and fans across the world. That also means every mistake becomes impossible to hide. This tournament has delivered everything FIFA could have hoped for on the surface. We've witnessed dramatic penalty shootouts, underdogs eliminating giants, new stars emerging, and some of the most competitive knockout matches in recent memory. From Paraguay stunning Germany to Morocco eliminating the Netherlands, from Norway proving they belong among football's elite to France looking every bit like championship contenders, this World Cup has reminded everyone why football remains the world's most unpredictable sport. But here's where things become interesting. The better the football became, the louder another conversation started growing. It wasn't about tactics. It wasn't about formations. It wasn't even about referees. It was about something happening after almost every match. Players were opening their phones only to discover thousands of abusive messages waiting for them. Some were criticized for missing chances. Others were blamed for conceding goals. Some became targets simply because of where they came from. What used to be frustration inside a stadium now follows players long after the final whistle. One poor performance no longer ends when the match finishes. It continues online, hour after hour, day after day. And that's creating a problem football has never experienced on this scale before. In previous generations, players faced criticism from newspapers and television. It was uncomfortable, but it eventually faded. Today, criticism travels instantly across every social media platform. Millions of people can react within seconds. One missed penalty becomes thousands of insults. One defensive mistake becomes millions of views. Some comments criticize performances. Others cross a line that has nothing to do with football. This World Cup has once again highlighted just how difficult that environment has become. Several football organizations and player unions have warned that online abuse is growing faster than the sport's ability to deal with it. FIFA has expanded its monitoring systems, working alongside technology partners to identify abusive posts directed toward players, coaches, and match officials. But despite those efforts, reports suggest that abusive messages continue to rise during major tournaments. That's the first hidden problem, and it leads directly into another one. Pressure. Football has always involved pressure, but today's players experience a completely different version of it. Imagine making one mistake while knowing cameras are broadcasting to billions of people. Now imagine checking your phone afterward and discovering thousands of strangers telling you that you've ruined your country's dreams. That's the reality modern footballers face. Many supporters believe professional athletes should simply ignore social media, but sports psychologists disagree. Elite athletes aren't machines. They're human beings. Confidence can disappear surprisingly quickly. The difference between scoring and missing sometimes comes down to tiny psychological details that fans never see. That's why clubs now employ sports psychologists alongside fitness coaches and analysts. Mental recovery has become just as important as physical recovery. And nowhere is that more important than the World Cup. Because every mistake feels permanent. There are no second chances. Lose once, you're going home. Now imagine carrying that pressure while also knowing millions of strangers are waiting to judge every touch of the ball. That's not something previous generations had to deal with, and FIFA knows it. But online abuse isn't the only issue quietly growing throughout this tournament. There's another debate that's becoming impossible to ignore: the tournament itself. For decades, the World Cup followed a format football fans understood perfectly. A limited number of teams, shorter schedules. Every group stage match felt incredibly valuable. Now, with the expanded format bringing more nations into the competition, opinions have become increasingly divided. Supporters love seeing new countries qualify. Smaller football nations finally receive opportunities that didn't exist before. Entire regions now believe they have a realistic path to football's biggest stage. That's unquestionably positive. Football becomes more global, more inclusive, more representative. But every major change creates consequences. More teams inevitably mean more matches. More matches require more travel. More travel increases fatigue. Longer tournaments create additional pressure on players already coming from exhausting club seasons. That's exactly why sports scientists began raising concerns long before this World Cup even started. Modern footballers already play an extraordinary number of matches each year. Domestic leagues, domestic cups, European competitions, international qualifiers, club tournaments, national team camps, commercial tours. Recovery periods continue shrinking, yet expectations continue growing. The expanded World Cup adds another layer to an already demanding calendar. Most supporters only see 90 minutes on match day. Sports scientists see something different. They see accumulated fatigue. They see increased injury risk. They see reduced recovery time. And they ask one uncomfortable question: at what point does football simply ask too much from its players? That's a difficult question because nobody wants fewer World Cup matches. Fans love football, broadcasters love football, sponsors certainly love football. More matches generate more audiences. More audiences generate more advertising. More advertising generates more revenue. From a business perspective, expansion makes perfect sense. From a sporting perspective, the debate becomes much more complicated, and that's where FIFA finds itself caught between two completely different responsibilities: growing the game, protecting the game. Those objectives usually work together. Sometimes they don't. Every additional match creates another commercial opportunity, another television audience, another sold-out stadium, another sponsorship activation. But every additional match also creates another 90 minutes players must survive physically. Elite football has never been faster. Players sprint more often, press higher, recover quicker. The physical demands placed upon today's athletes are unlike anything seen 20 years ago. Recovery has become part of performance itself. Lose that recovery, performance eventually follows. Some managers have quietly acknowledged this reality throughout the tournament. They rotate squads more aggressively, protect key players whenever possible, monitor training loads with extraordinary precision, not because they want to, because they have to. One injury can completely transform a World Cup campaign, and that's exactly why squad depth has become almost as valuable as individual brilliance. But here's something most fans don't notice. As physical fatigue increases, mental fatigue follows closely behind. Decision-making slows, concentration drops, small mistakes become more common. That's often when football matches change. Not because one team suddenly becomes better, because the other team becomes slightly less sharp. Those tiny margins decide World Cups. One misplaced pass, one late tackle, one defensive lapse. Suddenly, an entire nation's dream disappears. And FIFA knows every additional match slightly increases the possibility of those moments occurring. Yet expansion continues because the benefits are enormous. Millions of new supporters now see their countries competing. Emerging football nations receive greater investment. Infrastructure improves. Young players grow up believing qualification is genuinely possible. Those are incredible achievements, which makes this debate so fascinating. Because there isn't an obvious villain. Expansion isn't entirely good. It isn't entirely bad either. It's simply creating questions football has never needed to answer before. And that's only part of the story. Because while everyone debates the number of teams, Another problem has quietly been growing in almost every stadium, because while everyone debates the number of teams, another problem has quietly been growing in almost every stadium. It's a problem that starts with one whistle and ends with millions of people arguing online, refereeing. Every World Cup has controversial decisions. That's part of football. But this tournament feels different because technology was supposed to eliminate most of those controversies. VAR was introduced to reduce clear mistakes, create fairness, and increase confidence in officiating. Instead, every major decision now creates another debate. Supporters no longer argue only about what happened on the pitch. They argue about camera angles, frame-by-frame replays, offside lines measured by centimeters, handball interpretations that seem to change from one game to the next. One fan celebrates. Another insists football has been robbed. Both believe they're right. And FIFA finds itself defending decisions that were supposed to end arguments, not create new ones. The Germany versus Paraguay match demonstrated exactly how quickly one decision can dominate global headlines. Germany believed they had found the winning goal. Celebrations erupted, then everything stopped. The review began. Seconds felt like minutes. Millions watched the screen waiting for an answer. When the goal was disallowed, the conversation instantly shifted away from football itself. Instead of discussing Paraguay's remarkable defensive discipline, much of the world discussed officiating. That's becoming an increasingly familiar pattern. Football's greatest moments are sometimes overshadowed by debates about technology. And that's a dangerous direction for the sport. Because fans don't fall in love with football because of VAR. They fall in love with impossible goals, dramatic comebacks, brilliant players, and unforgettable emotions. Technology should support those moments, not become the main story. Then there is another issue that rarely receives enough attention. The expectations placed on referees themselves. Modern officials operate under pressure unlike anything previous generations experienced. Every decision is replayed from multiple angles. Every mistake becomes viral within minutes. Every controversial call becomes international news. Referees now prepare almost as thoroughly as players, yet one split-second judgment can define an entire tournament. That pressure affects performance too. And perhaps that's football's hidden reality. Everyone involved is under more pressure than ever before. Players, managers, referees, even supporters. Social media has accelerated every emotion. Victory spreads faster. Defeat spreads faster. Anger spreads fastest of all. FIFA cannot solve that problem with another rule change. But it also cannot pretend it doesn't exist. Because football isn't only changing on the pitch. The world around football is changing as well. Commercially, the World Cup has never been stronger. Television audiences continue breaking records. Digital engagement reaches billions of interactions. Sponsors invest unprecedented amounts of money. Host cities experience enormous economic benefits. By almost every financial measure, the tournament is a remarkable success. Yet financial success doesn't automatically guarantee sporting success. That's the balance FIFA must protect. History shows that every great sporting competition eventually faces the same question. Do you grow bigger, or do you protect what already makes you special? The World Cup now stands at that crossroads. Expand too quickly, and supporters fear the tournament loses its exclusivity. Refuse to evolve, and football risks leaving emerging nations behind. Increase commercial opportunities too aggressively, and critics accuse FIFA of prioritizing money. Ignore commercial realities altogether, and developing football around the world receives less investment. Every decision creates another trade-off. Perhaps that's why the current debate feels so complicated. Because there isn't one hidden problem, there are several: player welfare, mental health, online abuse, fixture congestion, refereeing pressure, commercial expansion, competitive balance. Individually, none of them threaten the World Cup. Together, they create questions FIFA cannot ignore forever. The encouraging news is that football has overcome enormous challenges before. The game has survived political tensions, global pandemics, security concerns, financial crises, technological revolutions. Every generation believes football is changing forever. In many ways, it is. But the heart of the game somehow survives. children still dream of scoring in a World Cup final, families still gather around televisions, supporters still travel across continents to follow their nations. The magic remains. The challenge for FIFA is ensuring that magic survives alongside rapid modernization. Because football's greatest strength has never been technology, or television contracts, or sponsorship revenue. Its greatest strength has always been emotion. The feeling when an underdog shocks the world, the silence before a decisive penalty, the eruption after a last-minute winner. Those moments cannot be manufactured, they cannot be bought. They only exist because football still feels authentic. That's what FIFA must protect above everything else. This World Cup has produced unforgettable matches, historic upsets, new heroes, incredible atmospheres, but it has also exposed issues that deserve just as much attention as the football itself. Ignoring them would be the real mistake. Addressing them could make future World Cups stronger than ever. Perhaps that's the biggest lesson this tournament has taught us. The World Cup isn't facing one enormous crisis. It's facing dozens of small challenges that, if left unresolved, could eventually become one. And that's why this conversation matters. Because the future of football won't be decided by one spectacular goal or one famous trophy lift. It will be shaped by the decisions FIFA makes after the final whistle blows. Will they prioritize player welfare? Can they reduce online abuse? Will they improve refereeing consistency? Can they balance commercial growth with football tradition? The answers to those questions may define the next generation of World Cups far more than any tactical innovation ever could. So now the question is yours. Do you think FIFA is successfully protecting the future of football, or are these problems becoming too big to ignore? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video and want more football stories that go beyond the headlines and uncover the hidden side of the beautiful game, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Goal Theory, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.